I'm Jim Check. Welcome to the Really Big Show, where we do kind of news differently. I got with me Ian Burns, our managing editor out in the nation's capital. I'm in Kelowna, British Columbia. Beautiful sunny day, a little bit of smoke though hanging in the air. The smoke loves to sit in this valley. I hope you had a good long weekend, Labor Day weekend, and also back to school for the kids. And my granddaughter went to school, and I know your kids going to school, so lots of kids on their way back to school. So if you're driving out there, be a little aware that there's little ones running around everywhere. So a little more cautious as you take to the roads this morning.
Oh, it would be nice. Be nice and civilized, please.
Lots going on over the weekend, though. Canadians want action on crime. Liberals offer up memes, though. Smith bans porn in schools. But the Liberals at work to confuse on that issue. And it's not Trump's fault. And we need to look in the mirror. NDP self-harm, protests around the world. Media shows its bias. Surprise, surprise. And then I guess the question is, did Elon save the world with X and free speech? All that and a lot more in the Really Big Show. We got lots to talk about, though. And lots of really kind of like political powder kegs as well.
As usual, never a quiet day.
Let's kick it off with Pierre Poilievre, though, saying your home is your castle, and he's really pushing for something, a law similar to what they have in the United States called the Castle Law. Let's recap that. In Canada, there was a Toronto police officer that said, hey, leave your keys at the front door, so when they break into your home, that they can access your keys easily and so they won't disturb you. In Florida, the sheriff said, if they break into your home, shoot them, make sure they're dead, so you save the taxpayers money. And they have what's called a castle law in the United States. So here's Pierre Poilievre speaking, against people invading your home.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling on the Canadian government to pass a new stand-on-guard law, amending the criminal code to allow homeowners to use force, including lethal force potentially, against home intruders. Poilievre says it's time to get much tougher on criminals.
Our amendment instead will change section 34.2 of the criminal code to say that the use of force, including lethal force, is presumed reasonable against an individual who unlawfully enters a house and poses a threat to the safety of anyone inside. Simply put, it means you have the right to use force to defend your home and your family against someone who threatens you and who has entered illegally.
Under Canada's current criminal code, people can defend themselves against intruders under certain conditions, but Poilievre says it isn't enough and that homeowners are being...
Well, we saw that with that one case where the guy broke into a home with a crossbow and the homeowner reacted, and then he was the one charged, was charged as well. And then this weekend, there was a lot of cases. And here's one that happened. I think it was 3 people broke into a home in Vaughan and fatally shot the man in front of his kids. And Pierre Poilievre put this out. Heartbroken to hear violent home invasion and murder in Vaughan this weekend. The second homicide in a matter of days. The crime wave that swept the country must end. Strong laws must crack down. And then another one, Wheeling police say a man broke into a home, choked and sexually assaulted a young child. And this is the guy that was charged with a similar crime previously and was out there. And Sean Fraser's reaction, though.
Unfathomable, that, isn't it?
Yeah, Sean Fraser. I think this girl was 3, wasn't she? This victim.
I think I read 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, the question then is, what is 5? And it says, the police statement is pretty short, but absolutely devastating. While inside the residence, unbeknownst to the parents, their child was sexually assaulted. It's just, I mean, remarkable, that, isn't it?
And then
but I just think, what is the reasonable response to that? What's a proportionate response to that? Is it, very slow execution over a period of 5 years? See if you can cut off every limb and keep them alive? Because that's kind of how I would feel in that situation. What is a reasonable response to that?
Well, Sean Fraser put out this after Pierre Poilievre's tweets, this isn't the Wild West, it's Canada. Canadians deserve real solutions that make us safer, not slogans that inspire fear, chaos, and Pierre's political survival. You guys have had 10 years for real solutions. It's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And they talk about, you know, you want to talk about slogans, what's this, Sean Fraser? And let's not forget Sean Fraser. We interviewed Sean Fraser a while back. At that point, he was the housing minister. How's housing doing? Anyway.
Is it doing better or worse than immigration, his other job?
Melissa Landsman, an MP here, a Conservative MP, put this out there like a meme. Sean Fraser, housing market ruined for a generation, lost the people he led into immigration. Now as Attorney General, he allowed crime and chaos across the country. The Wild West of destroyed departments, and then she used the old Clint Eastwood kind of meme there. The good, bad, and the ugly. I don't know where the good is, though.
But they've removed the good, yeah. That's a bit harsh on old Shawnee boy, though. I don't know. Is he ugly? It's a bit harsh, Melissa. Keep that to yourself, pet.
I think that's the ugly truths, not the ugly man. Or maybe.
Yeah.
And then Brian Lilly, he puts this: liberals keep pointing that crime was down in 2023 from a peak in 2022. But compare that to a decade earlier, crime is up more than 55%. You can play with stats all day long. That's the manipulation that they do with stats, right? And you know, they'll pick a number and say, oh yeah, it's this, that, and another thing. But I think you don't need an actual stat to notice that a child that's raped in their own home, a 5-year-old child raped in their home, a father that's shot in the head while his children watch. A guy breaks into a home with a crossbow, and we're supposed to say that's okay. A police department that tells you to leave the keys at the front door. We see these smash and grabs everywhere. Like, I mean, tell me. And then here's another meme here. This is what we're talking about, liberal memes. Sean Fraser, immigration. He denied, well, actually the liberals said, if you dared speak out against immigration while this train wreck was going on, that you were a racist. Remember all those in the media? The mainstream government-funded corrupted media, what did they do? Ran all kinds of story and talked about how dare you speak about immigration. And then when they did highlight things like, escalating rent costs and all that, they never once talked about immigration, did they?
Still, I mean, like I was saying last week, got an opinion article that was pushed to everybody's cell phones from CTV, which is like, you save those stories for the best ones, or the most important ones. That was talking about the job market for kids, and it was talking about why it's so bad. Didn't even use the word migration. Didn't even, not an important part of that story, apparently. But I must say, in defense of Sean Fraser here, immigration, yeah, he was the immigration minister, but immigration is such a huge issue, and it's really directly under the control of the boss, isn't it? In the case of Sean Fraser, that was Justin Trudeau. So I feel like, yeah, you can criticize him maybe for not making more noise, maybe not resigning or something like that, or trying to push more in the press or even behind the scenes to chill out with immigration. But ultimately, if you want somebody to blame for immigration, it's Justin Trudeau, isn't it? And the sort of upper echelon of the party, whereas Fraser's kind of, a peon in that hierarchy, wasn't he?
Well, they're all linked. If you look at it, massive immigration did do what? Destroyed housing, and he became the housing minister. And they, like how rents and housing costs soared in Canada, and then massive immigration leads to more crime.
It's a pretty bad. It's a bad run for Sean Fraser, considering he was going to quit politics, wasn't he? And he's going to give it all up until Mark Carney came in.
All these things, and that's really what our whole show is on today, is all about immigration and what the effects of this massive immigration, out of control immigration, has done to Canadians' well-being, and that includes health crisis, no access to health care, escalating rents, escalating inflation, escalating mortgage, all kinds of stuff, crime. And here's Sean Fraser defending himself in the housing crisis. This is earlier. This is, we can just probably replay this for when he was housing minister, immigration minister, and now justice minister. I don't know how he gets all these titles when he was a failure in the last two. Let's play this clip, though.
things that's really important for Canada's social and economic well-being is that we don't seek to attribute the very real challenges we're having with housing exclusively to the issue of immigration. And I think it's important that we understand that the rate of interest have changed, that the cost of material supplies, labor. Mr. Chair, when I'm asked a question, do I have the liberty to have the same amount of time to offer a response?
Respectfully, I think the minister continues to deflect away from this, from ignoring this dire warning that his own department gave him, that caused the housing crisis that we're in today and made it even worse.
Mr. Chair, this is the first time I've heard the Conservative Party openly suggest that the cause of the housing crisis is immigration.
Excuse me, that's false. According to CIBC, they gave a grave warning that Canada needs an additional 5 million new homes units by 2030, on top of the ones that are already projected. That's about 1.5 million more additional homes than the CMHC.
Hold it there, yeah. So, you know, like, they just deflect, and they're just not honest about it, are they?
Well, he started off by being being accurate, where he said it's not exclusively immigration, and started talking about interest rates. Yeah, that's true. But then when he got excited, when he got some ants in his pants, he started saying, "Oh, the Conservatives are saying," and then he said something ridiculous, saying that they blame immigration. I mean, if you want to blame one thing, if you've only got capacity in your head for one thing, it has to be immigration. Obviously, it has to be, because the numbers are just so unfathomably enormous. They're so huge that you almost need like a war economy to build the houses necessary to put all these people in, give all these people somewhere to live.
Let's just look at it in a real common sense way of looking at things. You live in an economy that it's all about oranges. You have 10 people eating the oranges. You have 10 oranges. If you add 100 people, but don't add any oranges, guess what happens? It's that simple.
You're going to be eating apples.
That's all you have is oranges. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people.
This fella
will go without.
I mean, they're cheeky, the Tories, a bit as well, aren't they? Like he sponsored. I'm sure he sponsored an Afghan refugee family or something like that. I know that's a tiny drop in the ocean, isn't it? But if you want to blame immigration, the Conservatives are also going to have to do a bit of a mea culpa and sort of approach it a bit more honestly, I feel.
Well, I mean, it's common sense, though. We see the numbers. We see the charts. We see everything. Anyway. And then another one.
It's one of those, like, don't believe your eyes situations, isn't it? And you were talking about that earlier, where you were saying about the crime. So it's like, oh, actually, if you look at it from this weird angle, crime's down based on this period. And we had the same from Chrystia Freeland, who I was just listening to now, where, if you remember, their big attempt to reboot the government under Trudeau was to talk. They thought this was such a good idea, was to come out and say, things are actually great. You're just stupid because you think you're poor. But really, look at these numbers. Look how rich you really are. It's like, we see this with increasing frequency, I think. And it's across the whole, it's housing, it's immigration, it's the economy, it's everything. It's the whole sort of, the whole society, isn't it? Some might say it's gaslighting. That's a phrase that comes to mind.
Danielle Smith put out a video this weekend, and this is, you can see the liberal media machine and the media working hard to confuse, conflate, and distract and all this. So Danielle Smith, and you can go watch the video, we didn't put it here, is banning pornography in elementary schools and some stuff in junior high and that. And there's some of the pictures in there, and like in the video she shows that. You can go back and show that real quick, and it's, you know, explicit sex acts. But what did they come out with? The Edmonton Public, so you can take that off now. The Edmonton Public School Board came out and made a list, because they just went and banned a whole bunch of books in response to what Danielle Smith did. And then they said that that's what Danielle Smith was, you can go back to that first thing there, saying that that's what she banned. And then Margaret Atwood wrote a piece. And so the liberal machine is actually going at her and saying she's banning books when... Really, I put this on my LinkedIn. Go look at what they're defending. Go look at what they're defending and ask yourself why. Do you want your kids to read that material in elementary school?
No. I mean, that list, yeah, she's been blamed for that list, hasn't she? But
which is not true. It's not her list.
Yeah, exactly. But what's crazy is a lot of people have come out and said, "Oh God, you can't be banning all this great literature." I looked through the list out of curiosity. I quite like a good read now and then, and I was looking at some of those books there, and I was thinking, yeah, actually, *Handmaid's Tale* being the most famous one. Yeah, have you read *Handmaid's Tale*? There's quite a lot of sex in that book. It's about, and it's not actually sex; it's like rape. It's quite graphic, that book. It's not really for little children, but there's also books like *Lolita*. Have you read *Lolita*? I mean, a lot of people were kind of like revealing how poorly read they are, actually, because they were going through this list and they were saying, look at it, like the *Game of Thrones* books, George R. R. Martin's books. People were pointing because they're on there. Again, have you read those books? Because I have. Exceedingly graphic sex scenes in those books, to the point where it's like big fans of him, of that author, say like, this is just too much. This is just cringe. Do you want to show that to children? And even Brave New World and books like that, and 1984, like there are sexual content in these books. So you have to think about it before giving it to tiny little children. Like maybe they should be a little bit older and wiser before they read about such things.
But to be clear, Danielle Smith didn't give a list of books. She said, get rid of the pornography in elementary school, in the libraries and junior highs. And then the public
school. Yeah, they based it off something in America, didn't they, Edmonton? And I think they've done it on purpose to try and wind people up, isn't it? But I mean, that said, though, she didn't do that. But I'm making a different point here, which is like a lot of people have got this list and said, look at this, they're trying to kill literature, they're trying to make people stupid. But Lolita, when it came out in the 1950s, I think, that was an extremely controversial book. Even then, like, I mean, immensely, and I mean among adults, not kids, adults.
Yeah, but the point is that
why would you let a little kid read Lolita? I mean, I just feel like a lot of people don't know what they're talking about in this discussion, and obviously they hate Danielle Smith and they see her as this like figurehead of fascism or something because that's how uneducated they are. But I feel like they reveal their lack of education by getting angry about that list without having read the books on that list.
So the better question is, how did this we put this pornography back up here, how did this end up in the public school in the first place? We put that slide back up. How did it end up in there in the first place? What librarian approved that book? Because every book that goes into the library is approved. How did that get approved?
That's because, many of our institutions, schools being near the top of the list, have been captured by extremists and activists who push this kind of thing as being necessary and valuable.
Does the media focus on that, though? Like, how did that book get in there? Where's the attention on how did that book get in there?
Yeah, like I'm saying, because the institutions were captured. So an activist, a partisan, an extremist or something like that, not your ordinary reasonable chap or chapette, pushed that. And on the other end, you had extremists receiving it and said, yeah, this is great because I'm an extremist.
Let's move on, though. You can go read my LinkedIn post if you're so inclined. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jim Check. The big appointment in the new office. This is their heralding. It's a Liberal heralding this new office that they opened, the Major Projects Office. Another bureaucracy opening. I wonder how much she gets paid. Let's not forget that Sky Canada, the doctor there, gets paid almost $400,000 a year to look at the sky, and she has 7 employees to help her look at the sky and answer the phone. Our own Scully and Mulder there, still collecting that money. I'm not sure what she gets, but this lady has a failed past as well. She's she's to oversee the nation-building projects, and she was cited for failing in her duties in 2023 federal court case. And that's Dawn Farrell, named Friday as CEO of a major project office. And she never commented publicly on that court case. Carney made no mention of it in praising Farrell for her extensive executive experience. There you go. So here's another Liberal being appointed, I guess, and that has had a checkered past. Let's look at some of the other checkered past people that have been appointed into the. It's like, if it wasn't so tragic.
How long have we got to talk about it?
It's unbelievable. And then, lots of people the Liberals and the NDP want to blame Trump for everything. But here's an interview here, a little clip here. And I've been saying this all along. we need to look in the mirror. Like, we put ourselves in this position 10 years, but through 10 years of, in Chrystia Freeland's own words, virtue signaling, identity politics, instead of building pipelines, at the mercy of one customer. Any company would tell you should never have just one customer. Let's play this clip here.
How do you feel in this moment when you see literally our sovereignty being attacked in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime?
Well, I've seen it being attacked. I mean, when you're going to keep giving tens of billions to foreign battery companies, when you're going to allow private companies to privatize government, our largest city.
So you see Trump now and his aggression as just a manifestation, a more explicit manifestation of our relationship with America as it's degraded.
No, Canada's problem is not Trump. Canada's problem is Canada.
Pogo,
I've seen the enemy, and the enemy is us. And we would be a wonderfully prosperous, proper costed, very good income, very safe country if we just take the boot off our own neck.
Didn't like that, did he, the interviewer?
I'd say the same thing for media. If you want to have a free and independent media in Canada, what does Bill C-18 feel like to you?
Yeah, it's certainly not a gentle caress on the neck, is it?
It's a boot on the neck.
More like a boot.
Well, while they tell you that they're trying to help you, well, the Liberals selectively fund some media. And the reality is, CBC's almost all their salaries are funded by the government, the Liberal government, because you have to say the Liberal government, not the government itself, because the Conservatives said they would defund them. So the Liberal government funds the CBC. And then all the other legacy medias, almost half their salaries are covered by Liberal schemes. And then we wonder why there's a Liberal bias in the media.
Which is ridiculous, because there already would be anyway. I think there's already one innate in that class of people that make up most journalists and editors. It's like they didn't even have to go ahead with this incentive, but still they did. I mean, it certainly sealed it. But then again, I would say at the same time, there are a lot of absolutely crackers outlets that are funded by the Liberal government who not only don't like the Liberal Party, but don't even like Canada as a sort of idea. Like I've said a few times, we, the taxpayer, courtesy of the Liberal government, fund outlets that don't even refer to Canada without speech marks. And it's like British Columbia, Kelowna, Canada, because they don't consider those entities to be legitimate. That's how insane the government funding of the media is in this country.
Let's look at some other areas of just absolute nonsense. And the own government, the Parliamentary Budget Office, wants Champagne to update us on the EV subsidies that they doled out like candy and have this EV mandate. And they say taxpayers are owed updated figures from Finance Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne. He defended the billions in subsidies as a game changer for this nation's prior to industry slowdowns. And this is in an August 14th letter. It asked the Department of Finance for an updated annual fiscal forecast for production subsidies and construction support for the industry. Because in a 2023 report, costing support for EV battery manufacturing put the expenses at, guess what? You want to take a guess? $50 billion. $50 billion. And how good is our EV sector in Canada? How good is it? Can you name any car that you would buy? What's that?
World beating.
World beating, all right. Yeah. World beating in the amount of just slush money, right? And this is, I don't even understand how these people try to do their jobs, right? Providing timely and effective analysis of the Senate and House committees and promoting greater budget transparency and accountability are the Budget Office's primary objectives. The degree to which this is possible depends on a large extent on the free and timely access to information. And do the Liberals provide free and timely information? Do they? Have we seen that? Any evidence of that?
This is quite a remarkable thing to have occurred, though, that he's come out and said this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite extraordinary. But I would also like to say, what I would love to hear most of all is a defense of this. That's what I want to hear. Because it's easy to condemn this because it's deplorable. This is reprehensible behavior. And we've seen it so many times from the Liberals. It's just not. I mean, to the point where it's almost like it's just boring, isn't it? It's like every day is a story like this, how they've tried to hide things. But what I really want to hear is like a very smart, articulate, and well-considered defense of this, particularly by the people that were convinced that the Liberal Party was the only possible government. It was the only possible solution to Canada's many problems. I really want to know. I really want to know how you defend the Liberal Party's consistent, literally almost like every day, consistent disregard for transparency and the sort of basic principles of democracy. Because usually I can think of an excuse myself, but I can't think of one. I can't play devil's advocate here because it's relentless.
So I want people to listen.
To be transparent.
I want people to listen very closely here and then ask yourself, do you pay enough tax? And this is corporate welfare. The Liberal cabinet approved subsidies including $16 billion for a Volkswagen battery factory in St. Thomas, $15 billion for a Stellantis plant in Windsor and Brampton, $322 million for Ford for a battery parts factory, and $1.3 billion for Northvolt in Quebec. And the Northvolt's bankrupt, and I believe Stellantis is pausing. Volkswagen, I don't know where Volkswagen's at right now, but none of them, nothing. You get nothing out of all this. $50 billion.
Yes, they did. Oh, well, the Liberals got something out of it, didn't they? We didn't get anything out of it. It's not, I don't think, a coincidence that all those places are rich in votes.
So Champagne said, he gave you your answer there. This is a game changer for the nation. He told that to reporters in 2023. 5 years, that's the payback, said Champagne. Okay.
What I'm interested in, I mean, obviously, this is another area that they're often criticized. They're spending massive amounts of money on these giant companies, foreign companies, almost exclusively. But I'm interested in how is it okay to spend all this money and then not provide information about the money that you spent and just refuse and just try and hide it and hide everything else and take your time on releasing all the figures. I just don't get it. And the only possible defense that I could think of from a Liberal partisan, is something along the lines of, oh, everybody does that. The Tories would do that as well.
Listen to this. So Champagne and his Champagne and Liberal caucus members disputed the budget office figures on the cost and uncertainty of electric batteries, and says we have a vested interest in building electric vehicle supply chain to help increase the economy and fight climate change. And that was from Ryan Turnbull, the Liberal MP. And the budget officer, Giroux, said, I don't have a vested interest in this. As soon as we publish a report, it sets the record straight. There are accusations we have not understood the problem or bone to pick. That's not the case. We think our approach is reasonable and much more so than the government's. The statements the government has made to affect this would be paid back in 5 years or less is wildly optimistic. These are accountants that do these things, right? And they kind of couch the things. He says, I work for the parliamentarians. I work for the benefit of the Canadian taxpayers. Can the Liberals say the same thing? Can they? I don't know how.
They can say it. Yeah, they can definitely say it.
And if you think that that's not enough waste, let's go to this one. Also, Justin Trudeau, one of his big programs in the Liberal caucus, the same Liberals, really, said they're going to plant 2 billion trees. And they're about 89% shy of that target. But they did spend $267 million so far.
Trees are expensive.
Trees are expensive. Apparently. So to date, 228 million trees have been planted, well shy of the target. But the government remains committed. But they, firefighting, mitigation, all that kind of stuff, they just let more trees burn than they plant, though, because, again, in the Nova Scotia fires, what did they say? They said poor government management of the forest. That's from the firefighters union.
Canada already had 318 billion trees. Wow, that's quite a lot of trees.
These are Holiday-owned Blacklock stories. I mean, they do great work highlighting this stuff here. But the Parliamentary Budget Office, they put out stuff. We do it all the time. We talk about what comes out of them. And, because they're accountants, they put out, here's the numbers, here's what we got. And the Liberal government just wants to hide all these numbers. And they defend it. When basically, that EV mandate is basically corporate welfare. And if they were serious about an EV plan, they would welcome Tesla with open arms, but they don't. Tesla's the devil. Tesla's, according to some liberal MPs, he's a Nazi. But here we go. Here's Freeland, like you were just listening to her. She's convening Made in Canada Summit in Hamilton, and it's a one-day summit there, right? Talking about what else? EVs, and the path forward. And anyway, and then Scott Moe feels like the farmers have been sacrificed for the auto manufacturers in Canada here. And he said, mercy of politics, right? Like as Canada continues to endure the consequences of disastrous trade war, again, it's not just with the United States of America, it's also with China. And one market analyst has estimated the canola farmers lost a collective $800 million. Farmers who are based in the prairies feel like they've been sacrificed to support Eastern Canadian industries. Imagine that. The premiers of both Alberta and Saskatchewan said Liberals should drop their 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. I mean, if they do that, that's the end of the auto sector for sure. And it's just odd, though, that the farmers have been just thrown to the wolves. Again, like you said many times on this show, not enough votes in Saskatchewan and Alberta make a difference, is there?
And they're not even up for grabs. That's the other thing, really. I mean, they don't look at it as there's not many there, and they're all committed Tories, just about. And the ones that aren't Tories tend to be NDP in that neck of the woods, like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, anyway. So they it's not. Just like this next story that we're going to do about anti-Semitism, just not enough votes in it for the Liberals to care.
Dozens of Liberal MPs, nearly a fifth of the entire caucus, signed a letter calling for more to be done in the face of rising anti-Jewish racism in Canada. It comes after a Jewish woman in her 70s was stabbed in an Ottawa grocery store last month in what police are calling a hate-motivated crime. You just had to watch the way that the liberal media handled that, though. For the longest time, they wouldn't recognize what happened there. Do you know what I mean? They just
even though all of the guys' Facebook posts and everything were immediately all over the internet, and it's those posts seem to suggest that he had a kind of very strange interest in Jews in Israel.
The media just crazy. We're going to talk a little bit more about the media, but most of those counter-tariffs orders slapped on U.S. goods earlier this year have now been removed with a few exceptions. And this is the food professor, and he's just showing and outlining how bad this is. Canada's Q2 GDP negative 1.6, exports choked by U.S. tariffs, and then the U.S. is a 3.3, showing the tale of two nations, the tale of two economies, one going the right way and one going the wrong way. But what is CTV again? You can't understand CTV, can you? On the weekend, what is their post? What did they put out? They can check this out.
It's a CNN story as well. It's not even their story.
But how long did the the Carney Liberals work before they prorogued government? I mean, so before they went on recess? Was it 6 weeks?
It's pretty short period, yeah.
And then I don't see that headline. Do you? Where is Mark Carney?
Well,
today?
This is because if we look at this, we try and look at this objectively or what have you. America has a much more diverse media landscape, doesn't it? So they have organizations like CNN, which is a Democratic Party media outlet. They're on this like right away. So if there's a Trump presidency or a Republican presidency, you can look in places like CNN, which are pretty sort of mainstream, and you'll see countless articles scrutinizing Donald Trump and the presidency, all the rest of it. But and the same is true, obviously. Fox News will support the Republicans and attack the Democrats. Whereas in Canada, pretty much you have CTV, maybe Global, but they're kind of not much of anything, are they? And CBC, who all basically support the Liberal Party, come rain or shine. There's it's not like you can. It's not like there's any sort of diversity or sort of pluralism in the Canadian media landscape. It's just all basically, the Liberals are probably right, and the Tories are probably racist or something like that. It's just a bit sort of it relegates this country in terms of its democratic strength. I think the sort of democratic vitality of this country is seriously damaged by this. Just like the economic vitality of this country is damaged by having cartels in groceries and cell phones and stuff like that.
You know what's even more clownish about this post is Trump, I don't think he only sleeps 5 hours a day, and he works like all the time. And then I think he goes to the golf course. Biden was on vacation almost half the time when he was in the White House. And you wouldn't see this from CNN at the time. It's just bloody clownish. Anyway, moving on.
I mean, Fox News were pointing that out all the time.
Yeah.
Credit to them. And so, like, the American landscape, you can actually hear about it. You know, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in Canada, it's just not the same, is it? We don't have the same diversity, and we desperately need it.
You and I, like pit bulls. And so if you're watching and you like this, then you can help us by liking, sharing, commenting, hitting the thumbs up, sharing it. It would be great. There's supposedly a hype button on there now, too. So if you could do that, help us get the word out, increase our reach with this. Because there isn't much, actually, that kind of tries to tell more of the truth. This is a big deal that's going on in the world right now. UK free speech crackdown sees about 30 people arrested, and even a famous person here. And again, we talked about this. I interviewed that lawyer for Amy Ham, saying that the United States kind of exports all their culture wars, but none of the protections of the First Amendment rights. And you're seeing this right here. So in the UK, they arrest people for tweets and memes and stuff like that. And in the United States, they do have the protections of the First Amendment.
Yep. I mean, there's a British politician. Oh, well, he's British and was a politician who now lives in the US. And he tweeted something quite controversial last week, I think, or over the weekend. And right away, his political opponents are coming out saying, like, arrest him, charge him, like, send round the police. And then he's responding saying, actually, I live in the US, so, you know, that's not going to work out well for you, kind of. It just sort of highlights how strange this situation is, though. But I mean, that is the best way to look at it. That we sort of live in the American empire, but we're not governed by the American legal system. We have our own system, and it's a really weird system to inhabit right now, I think.
We must admit, CBC does do some decent stories, and they did this undercover one. They've done a couple good undercover ones. I mean, they should focus on that instead of like propping up the Liberal government. Here's one where they actually investigated rent or sex for rent deals here, and I've heard of this here. This happened in Kelowna. One of our reporters was actually subjected to this as well. So let's play this small clip here.
I saw that offered free rent.
We're undercover, meeting with a man who's posted an ad online. He's offering a warm bed in Hamilton, Ontario for a petite female.
When you say
what you're about to hear next gets explicit.
We fool around a little bit here and there, right? Sort of. If you're not into actually having sex, that's cool. We can do other things, right?
Did you get the idea? So you get the idea there. And that happened to one of our reporters, actually, here in Kelowna. She told me about it, and we had her move into our house immediately and get out of that house where the guy was asking for favors for rent. And I guess this was not the only time this guy did this, because he had like 5 roommates in his house. He had a house up there in Glenmore.
Power imbalance, I guess, isn't it? That's the key there.
Oh, when somebody is in a, what you call it, a vulnerable situation, they're always predators, right?
Yeah, precisely. And it's a shame that they're, that they're out on the hunt in Canada as well. It's not something that you would like to admit is true, but obviously it is.
And then this is the last and Holly Dome Blacklock story for today. Thank you for all the hard work she does. The NDP burnt it to the ground. You and I have said this a million times. Like, they lit their party on fire for the Justin Trudeau Liberals. They basically, I mean, they're the reason that the Liberals are back in power too, because they basically self-imploded their party. All those votes went to the Liberals. And when we say Chrystia Freeland said that Liberals spent 10 years on identity politics and virtue signaling, I'd say that the Democrats were like that on like steroids. Like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, the dynamic duo, really basically, lost a decade for Canada. I mean, everybody wants to blame Trump. They can look to those two individuals as poster boys for the economy that we're currently experiencing here in Canada and all the immigration problems, all that stuff, the dynamic duo is to blame, and the Liberals that are still in power. Most of the NDP got their just reward, but a lot of the Liberals, like Chrystia Freeland's still in there. Like, I mean, she was second in charge. She's still there. Chrystia Freeland, second in charge. And then Sean Fraser, in charge of immigration and housing, two of the most disastrous things. Still in, now a justice minister. Like, if you think of it, Francois Philippe Champagne, Melanie Jolie. Like, oh my, poor Melanie.
Even Anita Anand promoted
Anita
as
Anand,
well.
right?
I mean,
but Don Davies coming to terms with it says that, he says it now. He says that, that they were too immersed in that, and that was the beginning of the end. And like, I don't understand how they ever come back from it, right? Basically because the Liberals took advantage of them and just absorbed their people into their party. Like, what differentiates the NDP? Because it used to be about the unions. Unions went to the Conservatives. Like, who would side with the NDP? Like, what base do they have left, or any, for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, unions, Conservatives used to be the ones fighting the unions. They used to be their enemies, and now they've just completely slurped them up, haven't they? And the NDP, I just, there is a possibility for them to get back in, I think, but they have to. The problem is when you suffer a wipeout like this, you lose all the people that might be good enough to do something about it as well. You lose a lot of what they call talent, which is a strange way of phrasing it, but you just lose your people, and then you're just left with duds. You're just left with like not very competent people. So if they have someone in there that's good enough, they can find a way back in, I think, and that is by highlighting the Liberals, that they're run by an ex-banker, and that they're like, talk about how they're sort of the capitalist party or something like that. That might get them a way back in, but I don't know. That's a long battle, isn't it? It's a long strategy. It'll take a long time to pay off.
Speaking of unions, the BC General Employees Union is starting some job action on Tuesday here. And they said they'll be walking picket lines in Victoria, PG, and Surrey. And they have about 34,000 members in British Columbia. And they issued a 72-hour strike notice. And they said the government's current offer does not meet the urgency of this crisis. So again, government employees make more money than most people in private sector, but obviously never enough. So there you go.
And extra job security, extra benefits, all the rest of that good stuff. But I mean, I can understand why they would do it. It's wage stagnation has been catastrophic in Canada for many years now. But still, it's the question is kind of, they are some of the better off workers, and there are lots of workers that can't do that.
Maybe the private sector should go on strike and demand lower taxes.
Or maybe the taxpayers should, yeah. But the problem is with the private sector, as usual, they have to go out and make all the money and all the rest of it, but they also have to take all the risk. Yeah. And at a time like this, people are they're worried, aren't they? So it's hard to organize strikes in that context. I mean, at some point, there has to be some kind of a conversation about why it's always the safest and most pampered workers that tend to strike. I mean, you'd think it would be the ones who are most at risk, wouldn't you? You'd think it'd be the ones who are living in the most precarious situation, like Uber drivers and things like that, but it's never them that strike.
Lots of protests going on around the world here. Here's a small clip here. You're not going to see this on most of the mainstream media, but let's play the small clip here. That's good. You get the idea. And we're going to play this next one here. This is from the British Patriot as well. Protests in Australia. I'm going to play this small clip here from Australia. And then CBC. And this is what CBC has to say about it. Ready? This is what CBC has to say about it. Let's play this clip. In a second here.
Over to Sydney, or rather to Australia now, where thousands took to the streets today in nationwide rallies to protest against immigration. Demonstrations were mostly peaceful, but scuffles broke out at gatherings in Adelaide and Melbourne. The Australian government has condemned the protests, saying they spread hate and are tied to far-right groups. Journalist Phil Mercer is in Sydney for us. Phil, good to see you. So what's the latest there?
That's good. Stop there.
Spreading hate.
You can't protest on the out-of-control immigration policies in many of these nations that are similar to Canada because you are labeled as a far-right extremist.
It is funny, though, isn't it, when we're talking about strikes and unions and things like that, which are often led by far-left movements, but they never mention that, do they? Or with links to far-left individuals. You just never hear that, do you? Because that's fine. You don't even need to mention it. And you also don't need to mention any sort of violence that...
No. Do they mention in there?
But anyway, I cast my mind back to the Black Lives Matter protests as well, whereas we were never told that the links to extremists that a lot of those people had, and also the violence was, if mentioned, played down a lot of the time because it was something that was generally looked upon with favour, isn't it, by the establishment, for want of a better word.
I have a question for anybody that still watches CBC. How do you watch it? How do you watch what they kind of just try to jam down your throat? How do you stomach it? Like, if you have any common sense left at all, how do you watch it? Like, we have to watch it because it's what we do. But like, how do you, like, I don't get it. Like,
I would say though, a lot of people say the same thing about Fox News, don't they? And I can, to an extent, agree. Like, sometimes you watch Fox News and it's just appalling, isn't it? Or I mean, there isn't really an equivalent in Canada, is there? I guess that's why I've gone to the US there.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a market out there for partisan garbage that isn't interested in the truth or objective reality, but just wants to push a party line. There is an interest in that. I think it's especially kind of nefarious in the case of CBC, though, because obviously that masquerades as some kind of foundational institution in Canada that's completely, whiter than white, completely clean and objective and lovely and neutral.
What did he say when he was in Kelowna here? The most important institution in Canada. Most important institution.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas Fox News, for all it is very similar to CBC in that it pushes partisan lines, it's, it knows what it is and it's not exactly bashful about that. They talk about themselves as like a conservative news network, don't they? Can you imagine CBC ever saying that? Like, we're a liberal news network. I mean, obviously we're sort of left liberal. Nah.
Elon Musk is really involved in the UK politics. The Labour Party goal is the destruction of democracy by importing voters and bribing them with benefits paid by the British citizens. That sound familiar somewhere? Sound familiar?
Well, it's been going on for millennia.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, you say he's very interested in British politics. Yeah, he is actually, and that's because of his descent, isn't it? Like his grandmother was from Liverpool, I think, and he's got most of his heritage is English, I think, or British at least. So yeah, he is very interested and he's got links and all that stuff, but then he can't even spell the name of the governing party. If you can't spell the name of the party that's governing Britain, but you want to talk about British politics, get yourself back to class. Sit down, do a bit of learning. I'll teach you, Elon. If you want to give me the small sum of $100 million, I will teach you about British politics.
Maybe you could do his tweets for him because he just probably his fingers are just flying. He does 1 million tweets a day. Let's just move on.
Maybe it was speech to text, yeah, and it was actually a grok problem or something.
I wouldn't challenge him on his IQ. I'll just say that. Brian Lilly.
Just the spelling.
Let's just go to the next one here. Brian Lilly here. Canada scrambles to fill equipment gaps. You said it just a few days ago. Like how? How are we supposed to do all this? Like with what and how and what? But, we stand at the podium and we talk about how we're going to do this and that with our military when we've underfunded, under-equipped, and underpaid them for how long? And then here's
Indeed.
one the Liberals can take more credit for. Poverty, sickness, and bullying are all on the rise among Canadian kids. And if you've got the steering wheel for the past 10 years, Jagmeet and Justin and Mark, this is on you. The study claims 70% of Canadians aged 12 to 17 experienced bullying last year, while 13% are living in poverty. That's a sad thing for a country that supposedly is, according to Mark Carney, the strongest economy in the G7.
Yeah, the best country in the world. Yeah, but it's also The issue here, I think, is like this comes out, and as you've rightly pointed out, the Liberals have been in charge for the last 10 years. So if it's anyone's fault, it's their fault, isn't it? Surely? Or, this happened on their watch.
Yeah.
But somehow things like this end up being marshaled by the forces of the left, don't they? Including the Liberal Party. They will take this and use it if in an election. They're not above that. They'll say something like, "We've got this new report that says that poverty's increasing, and this many out of this many kids face blah blah blah. We need more money on this program." And the Conservatives are going to cut that, so they'll make poverty even worse. It's like, hold on, didn't this happen under your watch? But it's the same thing. It's just like
That's
there's
comedy.
nothing new under the
Comedy.
sun,
Well, here's another.
as we read in Ecclesiastes.
Here's a bribe, and Quebec is refusing it. The Quebec government rejected funding from Ottawa aimed at tackling what the Liberal Party considers to be systemic racism in Canada's criminal justice system. Quebec said it doesn't subscribe to the approach in which the funding program is based, namely systemic racism. The Quebec is very protective of their culture, and so they're not taking the bribe.
Well, they look at that correctly as being a sort of Anglophone, Anglo-Saxon, as they like to say, idea. The French do that as well in the motherland. They don't buy into systemic racism and stuff like that because they look at that as coming out of American universities, which is true. These are English-speaking ideas. So this idea is that if there are more proportionately more black people in jail or being prosecuted or something like that, the only possible explanation is racism. That the judges are racist. That somehow the clerk of the court is racist. I was like, there's some kind of racism that just permeates. And systemic racism is this idea that even if everybody in the institution is not racist or is even against racism, somehow the institution itself is still racist because of reasons. So the French just look at that as being absurd. Lots of other countries and cultures do as well. And Quebec has inherited that, and they just say,
We got a little bit of world news here to cover off here. This is not a good thing, as this war in Ukraine has driven India and China and Russia closer together. They're part of the BRICS nations, right? And then Putin there visiting Modi.
Yeah, not a very good camera, that is it, Modi? Looks like he took that with cell phone from 2005 or something.
And then there's this big squabble, and I think Andrew Coyne there, he's been screaming about, like Trump fired this Federal Reserve Governor, Lisa Cook. Turns out even CNN is now saying, whoops, like she had, if she's, again, a Fed governor, she should be keeping her nose clean from fraud and stuff like that. Wouldn't you think? You want to play that small clip there? This is from CNN too, which is, definitely liberal.
There's some suspicious activity here that's really problematic by Lisa Cook. Let me just sort of try to bottom line it. There's 3 properties, okay? Within a 2-week stretch, she gets a mortgage on a place in Michigan and says that's her principal residence. 2 weeks later, she gets a mortgage on a place in Atlanta in Georgia and says that's her primary residence. And now there's a 3rd place in Cambridge that she said was her secondary residence, but she's actually renting it out. Now, why would someone do all this? Because you get better interest rates, because you get better tax benefits. That can be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thus far, and I find this really notable, in the briefs that have been submitted by Lisa Cook's lawyers, she was the plaintiff here. She filed the opening brief. No explanation of what she did, how this happened. There's some reference to maybe it's a clerical error. Today, in court, Abby Lowell, very good lawyer, again, no explanation.
One of the things that's a pattern in the United States is many of these elected officials and that are serving people invested heavily in real estate when it was down, and then used, obviously they wanted better benefits in that, so they used this principle. I think there's the same case going on with a couple other these notable figures that were going after Trump. That's pointed out that many of them had multiple properties, again, using different names and stuff like that to get favorable mortgage interest rates and tax breaks and stuff like that.
The exact same thing, almost eerily similar, is going on in England right now with the Deputy Prime Minister. and it's the exact same thing about principal residences and all the rest of it. It's quite interesting.
And here you go. Here's the Globe and Mail jumping in there too. Thousands in Australia rally against immigration. Government links them to neo-Nazis. Got to get that word in there.
Can't touch it. It's called guilt by association, if anybody was wondering what that fallacy is.
Yeah, and then
as practiced by our dear former leader Justin Trudeau when they were protesting in Ottawa, and suddenly they were all Nazis and misogynists and so on. Don't bother joining them or sympathizing with them, because they're Nazis. They're literally goose-stepping around and hailing Hitler.
So there's a picture here, and there's about 500,000 neo-Nazis in Australia right now. How did they not know about that earlier?
Crisis, that, isn't it? You'd think.
How did they not know about all these neo-Nazis earlier? And
but then you wonder, I mean, these people scratch their chins and they wonder, like on the liberal left, let's say in the case of Australia, and they wonder like why people are losing faith in institutions, like why is our democracy struggling so much? It's like, damn, we've got to save democracy. And then in the next breath there's a massive protest and they say neo-Nazis, they're all just Nazis, don't worry about it. I mean, that's not how you run a democracy. If you're wondering, Australian establishment, that's not how democracy works. And you're not going to have a population that believes in democracy if you every time the people protest, you just call them Nazis.
And then Elon Musk points this out. X is the media now. He's been saying that forever because you are the media now. Because, I mean, really, if you look at some of the media propaganda that goes out there, I mean, I look on X and you can see, usually you can see somewhere in there, there's a lot of stuff that at least contradicts what they're saying. And then you use your own eyes and ears and you say, what the heck? And then here it is. I'm sure you know this man. Father Ted creator Graham Lineman was arrested by 5 armed police for 3 trans tweets. Like 5 armed police. Well, you got to love the UK. They got cops for that.
And that's in he had to go to hospital. He said his blood pressure was high or something, and he blamed it on that. So that's with the IV there. That's what that picture is.
So they got lots of cops for that. Not much for when people get attacked there. So, you know. Lots of cops for that.
I mean, it's just with England, it's one of my friends is writing who lives in England. He's writing a book about free speech, and challenges to freedom of speech in England, and he's almost given up. He's so frustrated because he started writing it a few years ago, and it's like every single day, his book is like rendered out of date. It's almost like in a way it's like one of the worst times. It's one of the worst and best times to write a book about freedom of speech, because every day there's a new law. I mean, it's just, and it's legislation. You know, you get people like ministers will come out and say, oh no, I don't agree with this or something like this. But the legislation is quite easy to point to. You know, it's like the Online Safety Act and things like that. It's reasonably easy to point to it and say, all right, just change that law then. But they never do. And so we just keep getting these increasingly absurd stories.
Let's skip to this Elon Musk one here where he says, it's J.K. Rowling's tweet there where, you know, she says, what's happened in the UK? And Elon Musk's response is police state. And this, if you're getting that one, no, next one. We're gonna leave that. Next, yeah, you missed it. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, Ben, this one here, you got to go watch this yourself. And this is again CNN. You got to watch this clip here. Benny Johnson put it up there, and this is you got to go watch it yourself because it's worth your time to watch and see how she tries to twist a narrative. I'm gonna play. It's like 6 minutes long, but you can go find it, and it's Gorka there, Sebastian Gorka. He calls her out and shuts her down there where she tries to mislead there. CNN great at that. And here's Harman Bangu says, again, we'll just put the tweet up for a sec because we've got to move on here. But again, we're going to get to some brighter stuff here because we can't just all talk about despair. Look in the United States, 5-year low on Labor Day for gas. No 5-year lows here, is there? Hey? No 5-year low here.
I don't know. I mean, with the carbon tax gone, it's certainly pretty low, but lower.
I'm going to Japan here in the next little while, and look at this maglev train here go by at 310 miles an hour.
さあ、音が近づいてきた。今見えた。一瞬見えてきた。
How's that?
I love the reaction there. He's like,
wow.
Yeah, that's good.
And then we got a couple memes, and we're going to have some hope here at the end. We're going to play some hope here at the end. But here's a meme. Mark Carney says he won't remove tampons from the male washrooms, you know, because Justin might come back.
He's not taking command of his space there, is he, in that photograph?
Anyway, this is Laura Babcock. She runs some kind of podcast. She's definitely a liberal voice, part of the machine. And she's like, you know, accusing, you know, you got to go read her. She's like Andrew Coyne on steroids. But I'll leave you with some hope. Here's some hope. And to all the climate clowns out there that say that they're, you know, like the world is coming to an end, the same ones won't watch the master plan, Elon Musk's master plans. This is the only company in the world really doing so much for the climate and for just abundance and AI and everything. And, you know, like if they won't watch it, then they're basically just climate clowns looking for corporate welfare and stealing from the government taxpayer. But we're going to play a small clip of this master plan for.
Humans are tool makers. And at Tesla, we are builders of physical products at scale that make life better for all. We have been working tirelessly to create the foundation for a technological renaissance through the development of electric vehicles, energy products, and humanoid robots. This next chapter will be on an even grander scale than we have yet to see. We are building the products and services that bring AI into the physical world. We are combining our manufacturing capabilities with our autonomous prowess to accelerate global prosperity.
That's good. You can go watch that whole thing if you're so inclined. But again, if people are screaming at you about climate change and EV mandates and that, and they don't want to listen or look at what Tesla's doing, then they're just being, it's just nonsensical.
One of the many contradictions and hypocrisies evident, I think, in that debate about climate.
Tesla is clearly like leading in so many different fields, and he has Canadian roots, and yet some of the liberal MPs, I shouldn't say all of them, some of the liberal MPs have labeled him a Nazi. And just like they like to pull that word out when they don't like somebody. And yet they push an EV mandate, and they've doled out $50 billion for these EV factories that aren't producing, you know what I mean? Like even the GM one, BrightDrop, closed, shut down because they can't sell the vans.
I still find it so strange that they call them Nazis, I must say. I've never met a Nazi myself. Have you ever met a Nazi?
Well, there's 500,000 in Australia right now.
Yeah, I need to go to Australia and interview these Nazis. I need to ask them what they thought of Stalingrad. Was that a good idea or not?
And apparently it's a word they like to throw around that really denigrates the people that suffered under the Nazis, because they just throw that word around. It's like the liberals, and what they do have is a label gun. They love that label gun. They love to label people. And they're the same people that will screech at the same time. I just listened to that Laura Babcock. She was screeching there and says, how dare Pierre Poilievre criticize Mark Carney at a time like this? You know, like, we need unity. Lady, his job is to be the critic. He's the opposition critic. And at the same time, you're saying there should be no criticism. What are you doing? You're criticizing Pierre Poilievre. It's just like they have no self-awareness, none, zero.
But again, all throughout history, you know, you learn all the time. You constantly stumble upon this exact phenomenon where critics, people that want to scrutinize power, are attacked by power itself, but also by the people that hang on to power, by the supporters of power. And it's in every era, Roman Empire, like, you know, anything you want, it's always been the case. And here we are in the year of our Lord 2025, and it's still going on.
The only way we're going to get better Canada is we free the media. We absolutely free the media from government intervention. And I'm actually going to do an interview here in the next 10:30. I have a guy on from Open Media talking about Bill C-18, how it cripples media in Canada. It's crippled us. They've taken away our audience of 200,000. So if you could help us share this, if you're interested in this, one person here wrote that the English guy is based. No wonder he doesn't live in England anymore.
Don't think anyone's ever called me based before. That's a big compliment.
There you go. Help us share this. Help us get the message out. Share, like, hit subscribe, whatever you want to, whatever you can do to help us spread the word. Because it's not going to change if we continue to have government-funded media just propping up this government and not holding it to account. They get away with all this because they're not held to account. Even the Parliamentary Budget Office is trying. How many outlets? Go look today and see how many mainstream outlets, CTV and CBC, run the Parliamentary Budget Office report there on the wasted money and the EV mandates. Okay? Go see how many of them run that story. How many do you think are going to run that?
Well, maybe they'll contextualize it and somehow reveal the Nazi sympathies of the PBR.
$50 billion. And yet, I guarantee you're not going to find that in there. We've done how many stories where she highlights stuff, and how many of them make it into mainstream media? What makes it in there is Trump's playing golf. You want to compare the work ethic of Trump versus Carney? I don't think you want to do that, liberals. I don't think you want to play that game. Anyway.
Does Carney even play golf?
No idea.
What does he do then? All this free time he has. What did he do over the summer?
He does this thing, I think, right?
Yeah, he does the Mr. Burns thing, doesn't he?
Plotting.
Who's his Smithers? If he's Mr. Burns, who is his Smithers? That's the question.
He hasn't named a real second in command other than Guilbeault, right? Like, who is this? Because Friedland had that deputy prime minister. Like, who is even capable? But I mean, it doesn't matter because it's not like they have a lot of capable people to shoot. I would say Tim Hodgson is the one capable, serious guy in the whole bunch. But how long can he last in that mess there? I have no idea. Anyway,
he's going to come there's going to be a crash, isn't there? At some point, there'll be a collision of ideas, I think.
When does Parliament get back in? I think about the middle of the month here. Isn't that correct?
I think it's about the 17th of September. Yeah, but I don't know if it is exactly that day.
Anyway, 10:30, we have a guy in from Open Media talking about Bill C-18. Renee Merrifield can't make today, so I think it's going to be tomorrow for Beyond the Ballot. But we're back tomorrow. We're back tomorrow at 9 a.m. You can watch this recorded, though. We have it on multiple channels, streaming it everywhere we can. And if you could share it, that'd be appreciated. Until tomorrow morning, thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here, too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.